Hello, everybody, and welcome to what hopefully will be the Wednesday show. I have no idea how this is going to work. In case you haven't been following me on Twitter, first of all, how dare you? But also, I lost my right monitor. Everyone thinks, oh, you have a center monitor, who cares? Actually, I have 3 monitors running the show. So being one down is going to be quite a mess for me tonight. So you'll notice that some of the meters that are usually on the right-hand side are gone. I put the network meter up there. It took me 20 minutes to get that repositioned and replaced in the right size and the right. Oh my God. I think everything else is pretty much going to work. It looks like at least my avatar, although not centered properly, did work this time. If the show wasn't so complicated on my side, it would be a lot more stable. But I'm doing all of these silly, stupid things that I don't need to do to make it look pretty. And they're very touchy. Just one thing goes wrong, and it's just an explosion. So please be patient with us tonight while I get everything straightened out.
Don't sweat the hard stuff too much, because we know you put in so much effort, and it always ends up being fine.
Nightmare. Or fine, either way. Same thing.
We'll wing it and have fun, and it'll be good.
Really, the pretty isn't the important part anyway. Speaking of which, how you doing, Terry?
Me, I'm good. How about you?
We actually got to the inductions, and the music has already run out.
Yeah.
I'm okay. A little frazzled, obviously. How you doing, Chad?
Yes.
I'm good. I just had a fairly decent day. It was nice and calm and relaxing, and then I had that Florida man funny thing happen.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. That's actually part of the thing we have to cover tonight. Before we get into topics, let's go ahead and see if I can manage to find out who's actually in chat. This is going to be fun. So there's the window.
So you want me to do it? I'll run through the
You want to do it? You do it. The less for me to do, the better.
Okay, so over on Rumble, we have Tier, we have Spudgun, Kivadan, Green Badger.
Hey, sweetie. I'm talking to Kivadan.
Yes, I assumed that was. And recently, Corsten jumped in on the Rumble chat. Over on YouTube, Hannah, Keith, Jen, Cynic is here, and Corsten is here as well. And yes, everyone from the Rumble seems to be over here on YouTube as well, and also Cynic.
For the people who are out there tonight, because I've already forgotten everything Terry has said, if there's any unusual things happening with either stream, let me know in a very pleasant way, and I'll see if I can track it down. We had a little problem with Rumble earlier. All I did was stop and start OBS for Rumble, and it seemed to clear everything up. So hopefully if there is something wrong, it won't take a lot of work. I noticed the stream's a little unstable. We're getting dips, and I'm getting red dots on the OBS stream. So you might get a little bit of, you might have to refresh your screen or something like that. But if you run into anything serious, like you're not hearing people or anything crazy like that, let me know, and I'll see what I can do at my end. Really limited tonight, but I'll do what I can. So we should probably go ahead and get into the topics. What are the topics? Sure. They're probably on another page somewhere. There they are.
I just checked on the Twitter too.
So bumper cars, Florida man, and your number.
Yes, bumper cars. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but DeSantis stumping for his presidential nomination got into an accident with his motorcade. 4 cars. The first car stopped, and the other 3 cars piled into it.
Oh God. Yeah,
it was mentioned in one place once, and I haven't been able to really find anything about it. It seems like everyone's kind of like, oh, it was just a little bump. Nothing's smashed. Nobody got hurt. Everything's okay. But I just thought, here you are, a governor of Florida, some prestige there, controversial. Yeah. Florida is one of the best states, blah, 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 blah. And you start going for president, and the first thing you do is get into a car accident. It's just like, even being where he is, he's still susceptible to the everyday ills that plague the rest of us. So it kind of made me a little tickled to hear that happened. We don't really need to go into any detail. I just wanted to mention because I thought it was funny.
I
Florida
didn't
man.
know what that was about. I saw people saying that Ron DeSantis's presidential run was like ruined, and that like I didn't know what they were talking about. So I don't think it was just that. That doesn't sound like it would ruin someone's presidential run.
There's he's having money problems. I didn't want to get too deep into all the problems that DeSantis is having with his presidential run, but yeah,
okay.
he's fired people and hired and fired those people, and yeah, there's some turnover, some turmoil in his team. So yeah, that's another issue for him.
I also think that the argument with Disney has probably drained him a bit too. Like, as much as I'm happy because it fucks with Disney, and anything that fucks with Disney is awesome, I don't doubt it's still expensive for the state because it's still Disney. Sure. And I'm sorry, Ron, but you pissed off the Trump fans who liked you. They still like you. And it's over politicking, and you're supposed to politic. But if you politic too hard, the fans don't always understand that that's what you're doing. Like, they don't understand at the end of this, whoever wins, you're all still friends at the end of the day. Like, y'all hang out with each other.
I've said before, I think the problem Ron DeSantis has is Trump supporters are Trump supporters, not Republican Party supporters. And so they won't vote for anyone other than Trump, whereas Ron DeSantis' supporters would hold their nose and vote for Trump if the alternative was voting for a Democrat.
It's also that a lot of Trump supporters, I would see them moving to Ron DeSantis after Trump's run.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you want to lead up into, because they want to have support over more than just two things. They would like to have support of the House. They would like to have some support in some of the states. And then they like to have the president so they can actually do some things, if that makes more sense. Like, I've been listening to Monkey for years too. And it's through you guys that I kind of get where you have the same problems that we do. Like, they fight with each other in such a way where they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. And it's the Republican side and the Democratic side, and everyone in the middle is aware of it. So if you guys can get your system to do what it's supposed to do the right way, Ron, you might have to wait for the next run. And it might be better if he has you on his side if you do go with Trump, because this time he'll have someone who'll be like, hey, don't go with Fauci because Fauci's a rat. He doesn't just look like one, he is one.
How can anyone not like Fauci? Right, YouTube? The big Fauci supporters over here. Don't take us down.
But all the same, I think a lot of people are a little bit traditionalist in that sense too. Like, they kind of want to see things in an order. But it's also, we need more players in the field than just in one area. That's always how politics still works. It's probably the same for you, Terry. Like, I don't understand Australian politics either at all.
Yeah. Well, I don't pay attention to Australian politics, and I live here. I spend enough time on Twitter, so I only see what people on Twitter are talking about, which is mostly American politics. So I don't know that much about my own country's running.
Well, it's like we want our so Alberta right now just had a little election in the cities because we're aware of the fact that we have so many NDPs, and I can mention this because we all have the same fare in Canada. It goes from major city to major city. It's a 10-day affair. It's a $1 million affair. Like, so like, I think last year didn't do as well because it was the end of COVID. Everyone was still kind of COVID happy, and they still made over $150 million. This year they're doing a lot better because people are a lot less weary of it. My city is more conservative than Edmonton. Like, a lot of the stories that you hear, they come from my city, but they also come from Edmonton.
Okay.
Edmonton is so orange in terms of NDP. Like, they show up on the map as like a little tangerine in the middle of a blue sea. And like, you look at their 10-day festival, and it's been fights with like the food vendors, there's fights on the streets. Like, they are so unhappy all the time. Like, they're the most miserable people I've ever met. Our fair had people just, my biggest complaint was that Bud Light lost to Mike's Hard, and it's not because I like Bud. It's just when you're drinking and then going on rides, what you end up with is vomit everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that Mike Hard smells terrible. It does.
Fair enough.
So I was in hindsight like, man, we couldn't just peddle our own beer. You went with the lemonade stand.
I am not a beer drinker, so I don't know which beers are good and which ones are bad.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't either, but I just say I've never known beer to stink that bad. When it's
I couldn't tell you what any of them smelled like. Like, I know what beer in general smells like, but I couldn't like identify a brand based on the scent.
I just know one thing I've never smelt before, and I was like, this must be the Mike's Hard. Like, I know that vomit is all nasty, all of it is nasty, but I was like, I'm blaming Mike's. Sorry, Mike's. You're probably like, don't endorse this bitch. But I'm like, I'm just saying that don't do it at fairs, okay?
Well, there goes our potential sponsorship deal with Mike's Hard. That's completely ruined now. Thanks, Jen.
Well, just limit it to, like, you know, singing venues or like sports venues where people aren't going on a ride where they're shooting up into the sky and they're dropping you, or they're putting you on a spinning wheel, and then, you know, force of gravity is keeping you glued to the damn thing, because if you drank a bunch and you go on that thing, the first thing you're going to do is fall everywhere. Yeah. That fair was fun. I'm just saying.
Like TV's having some troubles. Apparently her chat just broke. So I don't know. Try refreshing. That is my solution to everything YouTube related. If at first it doesn't work, refresh until it does. That universal solution for everything wrong with YouTube.
The minions of the Mike's Hard deal. Listen, I don't dislike the drink. I'm just saying there's placement to where it should be, and that one was just a hindsight flaw. I can't blame them for that. They can't know that that's what we do. Like, we're really kind of surprisingly rowdy where I live. Like, you wouldn't know that we like adventure until you take us to a place where we can go and have adventure, and that's what we do. And then you offer us booze at the same time. And they're like, well, you know what? I work my ass off, so I'm going to have some booze while I go on this ride. That's probably going to make me
everywhere. I don't know. People should have more sense, but they don't.
They don't. I mean, I admit I fell to that flaw, but the thing is I don't drink. I'm kind of like you on that one. I'm okay with having I'm being honest. I still have the occasional smoke on occasion. But that doesn't make me vomit. It makes me cough sometimes, but it doesn't make me vomit.
I don't like the taste of alcohol, but I also don't like the effect of like being drunk. Like people will like put up with bad tasting alcohol because they want to get drunk. Mm-hmm. I can't stand the feeling of being drunk. So there's like zero reason for me to ever drink it. Like, I don't like any part of the experience.
If I drink something with booze in it, I kind of limit the booze to the point where it's just more for the flavor than getting drunk, because I don't like the effects either. I either get sleepy or cranky, or just I feel sick. I'm like, you know, I think I'm depressed. Yeah, I'm just like, I think I'm more fun when I don't drink. So
yeah, I mean, like if I drink alcohol, I just get gloomy and depressed, and like
I'm kind of scared to get drunk, because at my age, I've had plenty of opportunity to get drunk. But my dad, like, I get a lot of me comes from my dad, and you're supposed to love everybody in your family and all that kind of stuff. My dad was not the best person in the world. The thing is, when he got drunk, he got happy. And his side of the equation is Irish Welsh. Irish people and drinking, it's like second nature. He wasn't a drunk, but every once a month on a weekend, he'd put 5 or 6 backs and get a good buzz going kind of deal. And
Right.
knowing that I'm Irish and that Irish people have tempers, and
Yeah.
I'm already to some point battling my Irish temper every day. I'm a little afraid of getting drunk and beating the shit out of somebody or getting the shit beat out of me because I lost my temper.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, look, I don't really need to deal. I see my brother when he gets drunk, he gets angry. So I was like, if he does that, I can only imagine what I am, because I'm a lot angrier than he is. So I was just, you know, maybe if I was by myself, and I was going to be by myself for a while, I didn't have keys to the car and like that, I was going to just drink at home just to try it out, to get smashed and see. I have a terrible stomach, so I'm sure I would get sick like crazy.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And I really don't see a reason for the experiment, so I'm perfectly fine being lucid.
You know,
From what I've noticed, alcohol tends to make your character traits like more pronounced. Like it just turns off the part of your brain that filters the inappropriate stuff out. So if you have a natural tendency to get depressed, then alcohol will make you more so. If you're like naturally gregarious, then getting drunk will make you even more so, kind of thing. And so yeah, I think if you like a naturally angry person, then getting drunk might not be a great idea.
It just amplifies your personality.
Yeah, exactly.
it could also amplify your mood at the time too. Like if you like, obviously if you just lost your job, I don't think drinking is the best idea. Like maybe having some tea, have some creamy if you can afford it, but I don't think drinking is the best plan because you're depressed. You know, unless you're surrounded by your friends and they're cheering you up, like different scenario where they can make sure you're not over drinking or they're cheering you up when you're getting depressed. But if it enhances your mood, that's probably not a good idea. But
it's not. I don't think it's that it enhances your mood. It enhances your personality. So if you're a naturally sad person, like if you're introspective and you see, a lot of bleakness and sadness, and like growing up with a sick father my entire life, that does color my outlook on the world. Alcohol will enhance that, so you'll be even more so. It's not that if you're depressed, it'll make you more depressed. If I'm happy and I get drunk, I'll become sad because my natural gloomy tendencies will become more prominent.
You'll start dwelling on what makes you sad.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I'm always kind of glad that I mean, there was a little bit of jealousy when I was in my 20s, and that's usually where I would think that's natural because a lot of your friends might be okay with drinking. You know, they don't have any effects like you do, and they legit look like they're having fun. I admit I resented being the kid who didn't want to drink because I was used as the, make sure we get home safe.
Yeah.
And, when your friends become little retards and you're like, God damn, you're annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I used to drink because I thought I had to. Like, socially, I thought there was, like, the expectation that, there's something wrong with you if you don't. And then I eventually got to the point where I realized I don't give a shit what these retards think of me. If I don't want to drink, I'm not going to drink. And then, if they think less of me, so what?
Well,
I think that was a turning point where it's like, okay, fuck these guys.
Well, I had such a broad range of friends. Like some of my friends were Mormon and they're not allowed to drink. So like to encourage them to go to certain places, people like me would be encouraged to go just because they, if they knew other people weren't drinking, they'd be more inclined to go because they don't want to be in a place where they're tempted. It's part of the thing. They don't want to be tempted at all. So they won't go to places. But, if I go and they know I have no interest in it, they might go. I just wasn't social like that. Like I'm kind of like you in the sense that I prefer being at home because it doesn't, you go to a bar and it smells. They smell. Like I rarely go into a bar where I'm like, you just smell terrible. Like I would like to hose you everything, just hose it all. Or had people spill their drinks on me or had some weirdo follow me around. And it was just like, listen, I don't want to say to your face that I'm just here with my friends. I'm not that girl. I don't like confrontation.
Yeah, most people are not too keen on confrontation.
and men get that too. Like, there were a couple times where,
cool.
My brother was playing my end. He does like to drink. He doesn't have my issue, but
men are going to naturally be more confrontational than women, just as like inbuilt nature. But like, I'm pretty non-confrontational. I won't pick a fight if I can avoid it. I'll just like, I'll try and remove myself from the situation rather than cause a fight.
My brother used to play the part of watching out for his guy friends. Like, he was the guy who was like, I'm going to make sure that this girl doesn't take you home. Not because he doesn't want them to find a relationship, but in the bar scene, you really don't trust women taking your friend home, because those are the women who will either get pregnant or have false accusations of rape. So if you can stop that
when you say get pregnant, I think what you mean is are already pregnant and want someone to put on the hook for the baby.
Right. So, he was just that guy. So I'm just saying that it's not just women who have to be careful in bars. It is also men.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody
I don't think bars are a great place to meet the opposite sex if you're looking for anything beyond, a quick fuck for the night. If you want anything beyond that, you're not going to meet the love of your life in a bar.
Mm-mm. But we were on bumper cars.
That's okay. We're allowed to be fluid. But the next topic up is the topic you brought to me before the show, Florida Man.
So I know we can't do this one as a poll, but I just found this thing as a meme, and it was pretty amusing to me. So I looked it up, and it's just Florida Man and then your birthday. And you just type it into Google. Okay. And sure enough, an article will come up. And the one that I got was Florida Man hits his girlfriend in the face with a cheeseburger. And I know a lot of people are born on my date. And like
see, it's her fault for not opening her mouth. Someone's going to throw a cheeseburger at me. That's just lunch.
See, mine is a lot less funny and a lot more depressing. A Florida man stabbed the puppy 50 times, then put it in the suitcase and tortured it.
Oh my
God! So, let's skip over me and then let's move on to Hammer.
I haven't done it yet, so I guess I'll just do it live. Let me bring up, because Chrome and Brave and Firefox are all being used right now.
There's a website, floridamanbirthday.org. So if you could just go there, you can. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Or I can't feel my fingers on word. Florida Man Birthday, all one word.
Yeah, it's a website, floridamanbirthday.org.
Okay, I am there. Oh, it's very, very light blue. Florida Man Birthday Challenge. Find your birthday. Do they say what the format is?
It should not be a challenge to find your birthday.
That's awesome.
So you just have to type in like August 5th or something like that.
Yeah. It'll tell you something that happened on that day.
All right, so I typed in mine. And it just says connecting. It's not responding.
I think the other joy that I had right afterwards, it was just one of those days where Twitter was showing me like the funniest little videos. It wasn't crap this time. And so the next thing I saw this, I'm not sure what city she's from, but apparently you can own a lion there. And she had what was clearly a young lion, like it wasn't fully grown, but she's carrying it across your street, and the whole time the lion is struggling to get put down, and it's growling to get put down. And this woman the only reason she put it down was because she was tired. And it was just the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
I got my Florida Man response back.
Good.
Florida Man crashes into a bar to steal Dr. Pepper.
Nice.
Scribe would approve.
See, you two got funny ones. I got Jesus fucking Christ.
Sorry, I searched.
Tyre got I got Florida man sentenced to 20 years for cutting off wife's lover's penis.
88-year-old Florida man burns raccoon alive because it ate his trash.
Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
God.
Hi, Jack.
Jesus.
I'm posting a link to a video about a Russian lady carrying her lion across the street. It's a super sweet kitty, though.
Florida man accused of setting his own truck on fire because he felt cold. All right. Florida.
Oh, goodness. See, I knew it was a good topic. Just for funsies.
It's almost funny how psychotic my one ended up being, though.
Yes.
It's really out of nowhere.
It's just like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Like, you got throwing a cheeseburger. Hammer got
Dr. Pepper.
What was yours? Dr. Pepper. I got stabbed a dog 50 times and then tortured it in a suitcase.
Isn't this pleasant? Isn't this pleasant? Isn't this horrific?
Yeah.
See,
The hell?
so I really do get why Viva wanted to leave Canada, but I did kind of question a little bit why he picked specifically Florida, because I know Florida's hyping themselves up, but they do kind of have to deal with this Florida man thing. Like, you might want to look into that, because that speaks of drugs.
I have a picture on my phone. It's something, I think Scribe did it, but it's a picture of it's a black background, and it's a picture of a man wearing a green hoodie with his hands in the pockets, but his face is blacked out, so you just see the hoodie and nothing else. And I'm trying to bring up the picture while I'm talking about it so I can describe it better. But what Scribe did was he made it a promo for a movie called Florida Man.
Yeah.
And he actually made it look like something you would see from an actual real promo for a real movie.
Yes, Scribe's pretty good at that stuff.
Yeah, it says the tagline is anyone in Florida could be him.
Yeah.
And then it has underneath it a film by Scribe Light.
In Hitman 3, one of the characters is literally named Florida Man.
Florida Man. It says Lords of the Night, you can tell this is an older thing. Lords of the Night and Jack Cochran presents a Colleen Pernier production of Florida Man, starring Liam Neeson, Meatloaf, Jessica Rabbit, and Jerry Mathers as the Beaver. Directed by Scribe Light, coming soon. But I wish I could find a way to show everybody what it looks like, but it looks so good. Every time somebody talks about Florida Man, I'll make sure I reply on Twitter with that picture.
Yeah. I actually freaked someone out on Facebook, because I was in a Facebook group, and like they went by the name Jessica Rabbit. So I jokingly said, let me guess, your boyfriend's name is Roger. And like she sent me a message saying, how the fuck did you know that? It was like I didn't. It was like a joke. But like she was panicking. It's like, who are you? How do you know this? It's like, are you friends with Roger? And I was like, no.
Did you tell her the reference?
Well, I just I explained it, yeah. But I was just like, how can you not tell I was joking?
I mean, I kind of get that for a second. Like, maybe she's never heard of the movie before.
I just tweeted out a message for people who are following me on Twitter. I tweeted out a message, still waiting for a release date, and I posted that picture. So if you guys are curious as to what it is, you can check me out my Twitter account at @the1tonhammer. Don't forget the word "the" in there. It's all one phrase, the 1 ton hammer, because there is somebody out there who has a Twitter account called 1 ton hammer without the THE in front.
Yes.
And I think he's a gay porno guy.
So, lovely.
So you don't want to get, 1 ton hammer. Whoa! To warn you ahead of time, make sure you put the THE in front.
It would be very funny if you didn't give that warning and people were like, well, we know what Hammer looks like and we know why he doesn't he doesn't like he keeps his identity so private.
Yeah. I was only told that account exists, so I don't know for sure, but I figure it's worth warning everybody just in case. Of course, now all the ladies are going to flock there on purpose.
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
Really?
if it's gay porn, then surely the gay guys will be flocking to that site.
And the last topic for tonight, to get off of gay porn here, that's bad phrasing, isn't it? Phrasing. I need to grab that sounder. Does anybody? Am I the only person who watches Archer? Everybody in the chat, tell me if you watch or watched Archer enough to recognize that whole phrasing thing that they did.
I mean, I know it because it's a meme on Twitter. I've never seen the show.
Okay.
I'm kind of like that too. Like, don't get me wrong, I would read it or watch it if I was given the option. I know I could look it up. It's kind of like looking up South Park up here because it's not allowed up here. You can find it, but then the streams are kind of shitty.
If you get a chance to watch at least one episode of Archer that has this phrase in it, it'll drive you. For people who don't know what Archer is, it's an animated show for adults. It's not for kids. And he is a member of a spy team his mother runs. He has a girlfriend named Lana, and the shenanigans ensue kind of deal. But he's very, very James Bondy, very, very serious, And and people will say things in there that are completely off color, and I guess out of time they made it one joke, and people were like really liked it, so it became kind of a theme to the show that just about every episode someone's going to say something. You better get your mouth in gear, phrasing, that kind of thing. And she says, "What's wrong with his mouth?" And he says, "Hey, phrasing." Didn't you hear me the first time? It tickles me.
On Arrested Development, one of the characters, Tobias, his whole thing is that he keeps saying things that could be interpreted as being very gay. So he's like going on a double date, and he's like, "You can have the good-looking one. I'll take the fat one." He's like, "If I have to suck up a chubby, that's not a problem."
See, neither one of you say things like that on the stream, so I don't know if I would ever find the use for it. But of all the things about that show that I like, there's so much innuendo and so much comedy in that's what I enjoy most about the show. But we never say anything off color to each other, at least not on YouTube, because YouTube would have our collective butts phrasing for doing something like that, So I mean, well, maybe on the pre-show it would because we say some crazy stuff on the pre-show.
He mentions, "Do you want X? Because this is how you get X." I've seen that one all over Twitter as well.
It's also that not every joke is going to hit everyone nowadays anyway, just because a lot of the jokes from, like, even South Park, if I played that to college kids nowadays, that would be because I would enjoy that. I don't doubt that every college kid would have a little mental breakdown because they need somebody else to tell them what's funny. But it's also so one of the channels that I used to watch a lot is probably in the boo-boo house nowadays, but it was the guys that did the Dragon Ball Z spoof. I think it was 4chan, or not 4chan. 4chan's the site. I can't remember their channel name, but it was Dragon Ball Z abridged. And they make this cell phone reference to a flip phone, and I laugh at it every time because I understand the joke. Yeah. But a lot of kids don't know of flip phones outside of the new ones they have nowadays because I don't know what brand is doing it, but they have a flat screen that they've figured out how to bend in half. Mm-hmm. But everyone here in this panel remembers a Razor phone.
Oh yeah, I had a Razor X. I had one.
Yeah.
But I actually have a lot of respect for when they don't feel the need to explain the joke. Like, they're just okay with some people not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like most modern TV shows, and like they over explain the joke. It's like they want to make sure that you understand why this is funny. But something like Community or Arrested Development, they would just have jokes in the background. If you notice them, cool. If not, hey, you missed out. Doesn't matter. Let's keep it moving. And like one of them was in Arrested Development. Henry Winkler has a character in that show, and while he's walking on the beach, he just casually jumps over a dead shark, which is a reference to jumping the shark, which was from Happy Days. If you get the reference, cool. If not, you won't. You might think what's the shark there for if you even notice it, but
I think
they don't draw attention to the joke. It's there if you catch it, great.
I think it's a lot of one of those things where, as an outsider looking in, I don't think every family has been passing down, their treasures like our families used to. And I mean that as in like, the joy of hobbies, like the joy of watching this show sometimes or getting into this sort of thing. I don't think everyone's really been doing that. Like I remember an article from at least a year or so ago, and they were talking about, you really shouldn't be doing these games with your kids. Why play games with your kids when they all hate it anyway? You should let them all do their own thing and focus on your own thing. And then, you have peace in the house. And it was so antisocial, so anti teaching your kids about how to bond with other people and, learning about different kinds of games, that kind of thing. Like it was this reality that I think a lot of people have been pushing that kind of crap. And I couldn't tell you the numbers on something like that, Terry, because nowadays you wouldn't know. I'm not, it's not in my culture to look into what other people do in their own house outside of stuff where, yeah, you're harming a kid. You can go to jail. We're going to repossess this kid. And I know the system sucks, but you were going to kill this kid. I'm on that board, but I don't like looking into what other people do. Cause there's this, I have a sense of, like it's none of my business.
Just in chat, Jack Gunsky says a bed delivered a baby and nobody noticed. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. There's just stuff happening that if you pay attention, it's there, but they don't really mind if you miss it. It's the kind of thing you read websites like TV Tropes. It's like, oh, I never knew that. Then you go back and rewatch it. Holy shit, they're right.
Thanks, here. I couldn't remember the team 4-star. Like I figured it was 4-star because I tend to shorten names, but I haven't watched them in a long time because I knew there was weird shit going on with the anime crowd, and I haven't watched stuff in a long time, Terry. Like,
no, me neither.
I got bored with it, and I went to go revisit. And honest to God, I didn't realize so many places were pushing this idea that, in your next life, it's just going to be better. And I'm like, that sounds really morbid. Why are you pushing? Like, I get the adventure idea, but it sounds so morbid. It's a little creepy.
It is. I think pretty much anything to do with like what happens after death is by its nature going to be morbid. Like, it's just you're talking about death. It's always going to be a bit grim.
But it's also like they really delve into your next life is going to be a fantasy life, or you're going to be reborn as this, or you're going to be reborn as that. And I'm like,
I think after you die, you either get incinerated or you rot in a box. But people tend to see that as a fairly bleak outlook, and they enjoy the idea that they'll be reunited with their loved ones in heaven. That is a nice enough belief that it's like no. It can't just be rotting in a box or shoved in an oven. There must be more. So those people will have their own ideas about what happens. But I'm I guess a materialist, and I just like no. I mean, what we see is what we get. Enjoy your your time on this earth, because it's the only one you get.
There's a lot of philosophy behind it, a lot of religion behind it, so it can be a complicated subject. Being born or raised Catholic, They'll tell you about heaven and all this kind of stuff
Yeah.
in the afterlife. And once you're off this planet, you're not coming back. There is no resurrection for us mere mortals. But I'm much more of a pragmatist and a scientist-minded kind of person.
Mhm.
And I think when you're dead, that's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else after that. So how do I mend those two together some way? My religion and my practical mind. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't even mind having even just a fantasy about it. Like I don't mind that psychology. For me, it was just what I was getting from it was this rush to leave your current life to enter the next life. And I was like, that's not what the religious push is supposed to be.
No, not at all.
Oh,
I can understand.
suicide's a terrible thing in Catholic faith. You don't go to heaven if you do it.
Like,
No,
that's
but I
not
can
what it is.
understand. I can understand how you would reach that conclusion based on the idea of heaven. Is like, okay, let's rush through this life. Like, it doesn't matter what happens in this life because the next one is going to be eternal bliss. So whatever.
Like,
but I don't think that's the message that you're supposed to take from it.
it shouldn't be, but it was just like the mass of them, and then the explanation for why a person was dead. Like every single time there was just that little bit of like, this is getting a little. They take things too far sometimes. Like it has to do with their culture. Like they don't really know when to stop with the boundary pushing, and it's like I think they've pushed it so much where like if you like, and I'm not meaning to read into it. It's just a lot of kids read that. Like, I know I was there and they still do because it's better literature. It's better pictures. The story's a little bit more honest about what the story's about. And they don't hedge with their words, which our guys do. Like it's always underlying politics, this or like, there's no focus on a story. So I would absolutely understand why I would go there. But when they push that many boundaries, it's like, you kind of have to mind them to hold back a little bit. Like, just remember this topic is really dark for kids at that age, because they'll go there. They will. I was there. I remember. It's not a bad thing. It's just our culture doesn't. That's a conversation between your parents, and it's a harsh one. Like they don't like that conversation. My parents certainly didn't. But because that's not really what the Japanese never mean to push that stuff. And I don't think the Koreans ever really do either, because they're spiritualists too in their own way, but they're crazy, artistic, creative people. So they push boundaries. I like people like that.
So the last thing I have on the show notes for tonight is a discussion. It's listed as your number, and I've been watching a lot
953341.
I've been watching a lot of podcasts. I'm dedicated to Matt and Blonde. You guys know that. I've mentioned it several times.
Yes.
But I've been watching the Whatever podcast, even though the fucking thing is 5 hours long. For Christ's sakes, man.
That's a long time.
But I find it interesting because he's starting to change up the people that are on his panel. He's not just bringing in 10 OnlyFans girls and making them look stupid or allowing them to make themselves look stupid. He had some interesting people on the other night, and just about every single episode, he has a certain list of questions that he asks everybody. And one of the questions he asks is, does body count matter? And he goes around to each girl and gets their opinions and a couple of guys that he has sitting next to him, whatever. And if the person says yes, then he will come back to them and ask them why. But before he does that, anybody who says no, he'll go back to them and say, okay, you said body count doesn't matter. So what is your body count? And of course, when you get two options at that point from the girl. Either she'll just, oh, my body count's blah, and it really is no big deal to her. She doesn't care. Or you get the person who he's caught in a lie. It doesn't care until she has to say it. Then suddenly now it does care. It's a gotcha. It's a gotcha moment. So he does it every show. And I can imagine if you're going to go on the show by now, he's going to ask you. So you should know ahead of time what your answer is going to be. But women still get caught. They still say no, and he still catches them, and it's still the same thing. But I've had this conversation with other people about body count with my girlfriend and some friends and stuff like that, and what it means to them. So without trying to get a gotcha to chat, I don't really want to ask people's body counts, but those body count matter to you in a potential mate. And there's a philosophy behind it that I want to discuss before I really get into what everyone thinks about it. The problem I have with the description of body count, and this is one of the reasons why I really don't like the red pill community too much, is because they kind of misconstrue or don't really see the feature of body count for what it really is. They'll say, oh, she has a high body count. She's been, quote, run through. She's had 200 people in a year. Yeah, she has. Okay, I'll try to be as brief as I can, Terry. She's had 200 people in a year, therefore she's a hoe. And that's the red pill perspective on this. But you can have a body count of 1 and fuck that same person 200 times in a year and be just as, quote unquote, dug out as much as the person. It's really not, for me, how much sex you have with your body count is not the right way to interpret body count. From my perspective,
the number of partners, not the number of times you've had sex. Correct.
It is your, from a woman's perspective, your ability to be discerning about partners. I think I think that very much, being a traditional guy, very, very traditional guy, I think there are certain rules. And one of those rules, for me at least, in life is women are, you heard this from the red pill community, so don't get me too associated with them. Women are the gatekeepers of sex. It's up to them to determine who gets the yes and who gets the no. It is your part of the equation. And if you don't have the ability to make that decision, you're just open for everybody. For me, you're not, there's something wrong. I hate to be this blunt about it, but there's something wrong with you.
I think, from an evolutionary point of view, men's disgust at high body counts makes perfect sense, because the worst thing, evolutionarily speaking, for a man to have happened to him is to unknowingly raise another man's child, because he's investing everything of like his time, his money, all that stuff, and he's not even continuing his own bloodline.
Nobody wants a cuckoo bird.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually,
that's it.
To be that guy, well, actually, there's been a couple surveys saying that women who are cuckoo birds are better in bed.
Well, sure, but you don't want to marry them.
No, you don't want to marry them.
It's the dishonesty of it too. Like, I'm not saying that majority of men probably don't necessarily want to raise another woman or another man's kids, but some men are okay with it. And to be honest, I've seen some stepfathers.
There's a reason I said unknowingly.
Yeah. I would rather support the stepfathers who step up to be really, really good fathers than to push that onto somebody who doesn't want to be. And I'd rather give those guys the Father's Day card that they deserve, because
there's a world of difference between a stepfather who is like, I'm going to marry this woman. She has a child with someone else, but I'm willing to take on that responsibility, because presumably I will then proceed to have my own kids with this woman, and that's fine. But what I'm talking about is before you've met this woman, she's slept with 500 people, you're going to be like, okay, there's a big risk that if she gets pregnant, it's not mine.
So
and that's what the disgust is based on.
I can tell you my perspective. So I don't mind giving you my body count, because I'm not a hoe.
Don't give me the number.
I don't care.
I know you don't, but I do. Don't put that number on the internet.
But one of the guys that was there, he had a body count. He claimed over 300 girls. And it was after like realizing that, like, I was a long distance a little bit. Like, he came to visit me and then went home, and like a month later I found out he was trying to date a Ukrainian chick. But in that month, I was like, why would a person have 300 relationships? Like, what's wrong with you? It's not always about the hoe. It's about this person probably has a lot of other problems and they don't want to address it. And you can sit there and be like, well, they might just be having sex. Some people might just be having sex, but that's a lack of loyalty. It's a lack of like any interest in a relationship to a certain degree, because you're not gonna work on one. You're just gonna go seek another one. So there's nothing to build here.
Well, I'm not gonna defend the guy. That number is out of bounds. Yeah, it's insane. It's out of bounds. But
there is a big difference between male and female promiscuity, but I don't think promiscuity is a good idea. But I mean, a promiscuous male has achieved something. A promiscuous female hasn't really.
Yeah, it's the lock and key thing. But the deal is that this is the argument I've had is men and women are different.
They are.
Women do not want a virgin in the same way that men do in bed.
Right.
A woman doesn't want to be saying, no, put that here. No, don't touch that. Wait a minute. No, don't do. They don't want any of that. They want the romance. They want the trust. They want the bonding. They want a nice, intense experience. Geez, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this. And a nice afterward. They want the emotional side much more than the guys do. So they want everything to just go right. They just want to have their good time. And guys don't mind. We're such. Geez, how do I say this? I'm really tiptoeing around the language here. Guys have much more of a hair trigger, I guess you would say, raising than women do. So if and men love to teach women, it's in the male psyche to teach women. So from a guy's perspective, if he has to teach women, it's perfectly good, even enjoyable for him to do that. Yeah. Where women would rather just make me happy, and she's not really into, granted, you look at the amount of teachers out there, most of them are women, but that doesn't apply to the bedroom. So,
well, also I would say the reason that most teachers are women is because for whatever reason, people don't trust men with children. Like in our modern culture, people don't trust men with children. So if a man applies to be a primary school teacher, they're gonna be like, "Get the fuck out, pedo."
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if a woman does the same, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, what's your experience?"
And the funny thing is, over the last 2 years, how many articles have we seen coming out with female pedo teachers?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So it's kind of silly. But
it's a completely unfounded stereotype, but that's the reason you've got so many female teachers. Is people do not trust adult men with children.
But even with the older students and stuff like that, it kind of even gets worse, because then you're talking about the girl who knows enough to seduce a teacher, and that becomes a whole different problem. But Keyradam says in chat, both sexes can get STDs, which is true.
True.
But women are more likely to get them because the fluid exchange usually works in the favor of the male.
Yes. It is leaving the male and entering the female.
Yeah. So it's more likely. But anyway, speaking to everybody in chat, I don't want to see any numbers or anything like that. Please don't give me a number. I don't want to see it. But what do you think about the differences between men and women when it comes to body counts? Do you think it's okay for a guy to be, a 20 or a 30 and still be looking for a virgin? Or I don't, to be honest with you, I don't like virgins.
I don't like male promiscuity, but it's more understandable than female. Like I think as a man, you really should be looking to partner up, and like, if you're interested in this part of life, you should be looking to have a wife more than a string of conquests. I think you'll have a more fulfilling life if you get married and have kids than if you have, a hoe train.
Yeah. But there's a difference to me in the definition with promiscuity. I think a guy having 20 girls is not promiscuity. Having 200 girls, definitely promiscuity. But
I think
there's a point there that guys have to have experience.
But also, women bear the consequences of sex. Like, it's not the men
They
who
do.
get pregnant. So women should be far more discerning than they currently are. Because, I mean, taking abortion off the table, which is a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah.
The consequences of unprotected sex is pregnancy, which is a consequence solely borne by the female side. The men, if a man knocks up a woman, he technically he can just leave. It's immoral, but there's no
Nothing preventing him.
no consequence to him unless he chooses for it to be so.
You okay?
Yeah, oh yeah. My brother just was going to the bathroom.
No, I just heard Terry just kind of dropped out for a second. I wasn't sure if he was finished.
Oh yeah, I'm done.
All right. I thought we lost you. I'm a little paranoid about the stream tonight, in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. So I mean, the onus is on the guy to initiate and to pursue, and for him, it's not only just a rite of passage, but it's an achievement. If you can have anything easily, then it's not an achievement. And
yeah.
even an average woman could walk out of her house tonight, go to the bar, find a guy, take him home, and have sex. No problem.
100%.
The average guy, not a chance. He might eventually get there after a month or something, depending on how unfortunate he is, but he's not going to be able to do it in 24 hours.
Yeah, like if a woman walked into a bar and just said, "I'm horny, who wants to fuck?" there would be a line.
There probably would be a line, because guys are just stupid enough to go for that line.
Yeah, but if a man did the same, you're like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, the bouncers would throw him out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's what the onus is on the girl to be selective.
Selective.
Yeah. So we're just different things. I tried to have this conversation with my girlfriend, and she got kind of heated about it. And I was like, the 60% of us is the same, but the 40% of us is dramatically different.
See, the thing with what you just said, though, is actually part of the flaw with what the feminists have been saying. And it's also the reason why a lot of women don't end up with the relationships that they wanted. Because when you get so much quantity, it's really hard to focus on what's actually important, which is the things that you want in a partner, you know, like the qualities of a person that'll help boost both of you up in life so that you're happy together, you know, and the things that you can work on with each other, because Lord knows you're both going to have flaws. So you're going to irritate each other at some point. So you have to work on all the things that are good and bad together. So it's not about quantity. And if you're just throwing yourself in like that, yeah, you're going to get every dude.
Yeah.
I saw a funny video where like the guy played a TikTok of some woman saying, how come it's okay for men to have a lot of sexual partners and it's not okay for women? He goes, men and women are different. Glad I could help.
and a lot of those dudes are going to be the dudes who just want a little extra experience so that they can be more confident. And that a lot of it is just confidence. You know, like it might take you to be forcing a lot of confidence for your first time. And that I would be put on the spot too. Like I've had women be like, well, why don't you ask men? Like, yeah, I understand that one too. I do, because I don't have a lot of confidence either. But when a man does, yeah, women
respond. Yeah, they do. That's why I'm beating them off, because
crazy
extraordinary amount of confidence. And there's the physical side of it that you mentioned, Terry, and then there's the social side of it, you know, where you have traditional, non-traditional, and you have feminism stepping in, all the things around the biological. You know, feminists are telling you, no, find yourself. You know, go out and have fun. Basically, be a whore is what feminists are saying until you're 30. You know, then settle down. Find the man you want and settle down.
Yeah, that's a bad strategy.
It is a bad strategy. It's put us kind of where we are today. You know, birth rates are down. marriage is still on the rocks. There's a bigger divide between men and women than there's ever been. Hey.
My brother says hi.
How you doing? What's up?
Hey.
So yeah, I mean, looking at I'm old. I'm old. I've seen dating for the last 60 years and how it's changed. And man, is it fucking nosedived. When I was a young guy, dating a girl was, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was at least not dangerous. Besides the biological, you didn't have to worry about, hey, what are you doing tonight? Get away from me, you pedo. Whoa. Hey, it wasn't like that. It is now. If you walk down the street and even glance at a woman now, I just saw a TikTok yesterday. I'm walking down the street and these guys are staring at me. I was like, girl, it's in our nature to find women attractive. I'm sorry, you're pretty. What do you want us to do? Think you're ugly? What's your end game in all this?
No, I think the real motive for those kinds of TikToks or videos or whatever is, I'm so pretty, guys can't stop staring at me. That's what she's really trying to communicate to the world. There's
that too, I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, Johnny Hellcat. I'm your Huckleberry. Johnny's in chat. Yeah. So I mean, you have the biological. She's got 9 months sunk into having sex, and the guy can just walk away. You have that, as you mentioned. Then you have the social structure around it. Do you want a traditional man? Are you a traditional woman? There's all of that, and then you have as time goes by, you see these kids who are rebelling against their parents earlier and earlier. I just saw a thing today. Pearl put out a thing saying women are much hotter at 16 than they are at 26. And the response was just a fucking explosion of pedo. It's like, look, I don't know about what you guys are thinking, but first of all, 16 is not pedo.
16 is post-pubescent. Exactly.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Not only that, but here's a good question for everybody in the audience. Everybody I know the answer to this. Don't look it up. Just off the top of your head. In how many states can you get married at 16?
I have no idea.
Well, there's 50 states, so
not that many.
At least in the U.S. there is. I know you got a bunch of states too, but
not for us. But I know for the states that you have a few. I just can't remember how many.
Well, how many provinces?
I'll go with 15.
15.
I'll guess 15. Just pick a number out of thin air.
I think it's always 18 or 20 up here. Okay. So
I'm not going to blame either one of you for not knowing the number because you don't even live in the country.
No,
so.
But the legal age of consent in Australia is 16. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with. I mean, okay, there's nothing legally wrong. You can argue that there might be a moral failing with an old man banging a 16-year-old, but it would be perfectly legal in Australia.
All right, so I'm looking for numbers. Got 7 from THUR, and we have 12 from Opinionated Scotsman. Again, you're not here, Opinionated Scotsman. So if you're incorrect, I can't possibly hold it against you. So I don't expect everyone to get the right number, but I need Johnny. You got to give me better than quite a few, man.
Yeah.
But don't look it up. You guys cheat and look it up. I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah. No, I was thinking more like 4, but if THUR says 7, I'm going to cheat and go with his answer because it might be 7, but I thought at least 4.
Well, all right, I'm going to give everybody another 10 seconds to come up with a number. I'm disappointed that I've only got 2 people to give me a number. I got 2 people. I got my co-hosts outnumber you at the moment, or at least match your number. So we should have more numbers than just 2 people.
I would always rather make a guess and be wrong. Because I know that there are some.
That's what I want you to do. I want you to guess and be wrong.
Because.
But even beyond that, it's kind of just being a spoilsport. If you're like, no, I'm not going to even guess. Well, then, no, it's just the whole point is for you to play the game and at least try.
And it's still a chance to learn the real. And it's also a chance to learn the real answer.
15.
It's just, I don't. I admit that I haven't really looked into that much in terms of your laws in the States. Like I know stuff like that exists. I just don't pay that much attention because it's like I said, it's that privacy thing. You know, I respect that you have things that are different, but I don't want to know so much that I feel like I'm peeping.
We love you, Kira Dam. Don't worry about it. I know you're at work. Sorry, Jen, keep going.
Well, it's just I respect that everybody probably has skeletons in their closet, but you know, there's times where I'm just like, the only reason I should know is if there's something I can do to help change it, if it's heinous. And I don't think 16, like, I don't like 16. I don't think 16 is a good number because I think you're still, culturally speaking, most girls at 16 aren't mentally mature. Like, even
let me give everybody the number because I'm making them wait too long. Out of 50 states, how many states can you get married at 16? 41.
Oh, there you
go. Oof. Well, there was a 4 in my answer. I mean, I needed a 1 to make it work and matter, but
hopefully everybody finds that as shocking as I do.
I just, like I said, it's so when I think of girls at 16 that might be more mature, I was going to call out Hutterites. I think in terms of like maturity, they probably are because they have responsibilities and they're expected to make sure those responsibilities are met. But even still, I think 16 is young, and I don't know. I don't know that they necessarily push that. Like, I don't doubt it's in their culture, but I don't think even they necessarily push that because it really is the person that you're talking to. Like, I think most 16-year-olds think that they're mature because I was 16. I remember thinking I was mature.
Oh, of course.
And then you reach 24 and you look at the 16-year-olds and you're like, wow, I was on crack.
yeah. I think it was Muhammad Ali who said, if you see the world the same at the age of 50 as you did at the age of 30, you've wasted 20 years of your life. And that's basically the same thing. If there's no difference between you at 16 and you at 24, then what the hell were you doing during those 8 years?
It's kind of a phrasing backdoor way of doing this because the age of consent in most states is 18. That's if you're not married. You can get married at 16, and at that point, as soon as you're married, the age of consent
is the marriage only with parental consent?
I don't know how many require and how many don't require, but I don't think a lot of them require parental consent for 16. I know that everything below 16 definitely required parental consent.
I think
keep in mind that we're not near the bottom of the barrel here. There are places where the age of consent, unmarried age of consent, is 12.
If you're talking about Japan, I've heard that that's kind of a myth.
Oh, I don't know. I just do my Google research.
So what I've heard, and I mean, I may be wrong, but what I've heard is that the federal limit is 12 in the sense that the lowest any individual part of Japan can set their age of consent is 12, but every single area in Japan has set it much higher.
Oh, okay. So federally,
so the
12, but
minimum allowed would be 12, but none of them have set it that low.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, there's the caveat. That's the same thing with us. We say 18 is age of consent. However, if you get married, that's out the window. So, and I'm sure every state has their own number. So,
I think it makes sense to have the Romeo and Juliet laws where you can have the age of consent be 16, but only if your partner is within
17,
say, 2 or 3 years of your age. Like you don't want a 50-year-old man hooking up with a 16-year-old girl. That's really, really manipulative. Like that's creepy.
You bring out the shotgun for that one.
Yeah, but I have no problem with an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old having sex.
Well, here's
normal.
the thing. Even if they regret the relationship later, that divorce is still early enough in life where they can recover from that. Sure. You know, maybe not like you might lose some money from having to divorce, but it's not the same thing, you know, outside of having children. And that's them. That's their personal life. Like, because that's part of the reason of the Romeo and Juliet is like, yeah, kids are going to do that. And they're going to do that. So
I have absolutely zero problem with a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old hooking up. That's just normal. That's normal teenage behavior. I don't see a problem with it.
Most women lose their virginity by 17.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
it's also that like our cultures were just really changed. Like
it
the
really has.
responsibility, like the responsibility that our kids have, and I know they think that they have them. It's not comparable to what our ancestors have, and I'm saying that from my own experience, even from me, you know. And I might have had some more experience, like some more responsibilities than you, because the technology was so different. Even from my generation, it was so different. And then you look at, like, yeah, my parents had that, and their grandparents had that, and their grandparents had that. So when I say we have less responsibilities, that's because your ancestors worked their ass off to make sure that you could live as well as you could. And it doesn't seem like much. Like, you look at the rich people and there's this fantasy that we don't have that much, but we really, really do. We really, really do. So, you know, when you understand that, learn how to exploit that, because you'll do better in life, actually. Because we are in a better position. You know, you have information in front of you that you can utilize. Yes, you have to shift through it. It's the same as research. You have to shift through it to find out which shit is shit and which shit is real. Because there's always crap that looks real, and then you look closer at it and you realize, well, actually that was fake. So do your research. But you have Alexandria's library in front of you. Use it. But it's also little conveniences. Like, not everybody has a big city thing. So my city has the flaws of homeless people and people who fight over drugs and probably gangsters and just bad people in general. But we also have a lot of really good people. So that's a plus. We also have a really good transit system, which I understand not everybody has. Like, I look at Toronto and they should have a good one, and it sucks. Like, everything that they had that looked good, they fucked over. And I'm like, that's your fault. Why did you do that? But because I have transit, Terry, I don't need to own a vehicle. If I don't want
me
to,
neither. I've never owned a car and never had a license.
You know,
wow.
And the only thing that makes it inconvenient is if I really want to bring home groceries, which, fair enough, you can order them if you want to. I don't, because I like to see mine. But
I will make one correction. I have owned a car for about a day, because I did inherit a car when my dad died, which I then gave to my auntie because I have no use for it. So it took me about a day.
I love driving my car. It
took me about a day to go to the RTA, but for you it's the DMV, and change the title over to my auntie.
Now, I do admit that is my one regret, Hammer, is that you know, the transit for between cities, we do actually still have like Greyhound and things like that. But in all honesty, I would prefer driving myself if that was the case, so that I could enjoy other things along the way. But I just don't have anywhere to really go at the moment. So I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with where I am. But, you know, in the future, I might look into it. But our system takes 2 years up here, because we have this system where the snow comes and then goes and then comes and then it goes and then it comes and it goes. So we never really have streets that are clean or in between clean. So I'm like, you know, I'll get to it someday. But transit's just easier in general, because I know that, you know, like, there's also a certain point where, like, our city needs to reconstruct, because even though our city emptied of a lot of people, it's still a little bit overpopulated. So a lot of transit's just faster.
Yeah, anywhere I need to go is within walking distance of a train station. So I've never needed a car. No.
There's no train stations anywhere near me. Miles and miles away from there's nowhere. But I live in the mountains, and there's a lot of twisty roads. And because
if I lived where you are, I would need a car for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of twisty roads, and we get almost as much snow as Canada gets. So being mountainous and snow, they have to keep the roads clear religiously, or people are going to die. So our roads are very highly patrolled to make sure they're always clear at all times. And so they maintain the roads up here really, really, really well. Better than just about anywhere I've ever lived. The roads here are always, very rarely will you find a road that has potholes. Very, very rarely. So, you know, when it gets to be summer, it's like like 77, 78 degrees outside Fahrenheit right now. You know, it's you know, there's nothing like middle of the day, 2 o'clock, you know, a fresh Coke in your cup holder, windows down, a great song on the radio, and running through twisty roads, and you know, maybe being a little bit on the edge, maybe being a little reckless and stuff like that. It's joyous, at least for me. It's just, I mean, I get a lot of pleasure out of going to the track as well, because you're pushing the limits of both you and your vehicle, and there's something thrilling about that. But just not really pushing it that hard, but putting your car through its paces on just the windy open roads, canopy, trees going by, the smell of flowers. That whole experience is just, it uplifts the spirit. When you're done, you come back, you're just, you know, it's about as close to sex as you can get without sex.
Yeah.
See,
Well, I have video games where you can drive. That's good enough.
see, I get half of that, but the problem is that I would slow down for half of the drive. I don't know that I'm consistently always gonna watch everything when I drive, and I compare that to how I walk, and that's because I just get distracted by my city's really pretty. I admit that I get distracted by, you know, I'll go by a church and I'm like, wow, that's a really nice church, or we have a lot of parks along the way that I walk home. Our national park's really nice. We also have a lot of wildlife that goes through my city, so sometimes there's a deer, and I'll be like, oh look, there's a deer. And I've seen coyotes. I've seen rabbits everywhere. The rabbits have been amusing because they like to stand and pretend to be statues until they realize that you've looked at them.
Maybe it's just geography is the difference between us, because the roads up here, there's no houses, there's no churches, there's nothing. It's just trees everywhere. You know, it's just where I'm living. No matter where you look, oh, there's trees. Oh, look over there, some more trees. It's just everywhere. It's up here, just big, just green. There, you have to get out of my area by at least 5 miles before you start seeing other houses, unless you specifically go down a road that's known to have houses on it. So maybe it's just that difference that makes it different for me, because I didn't have this when I lived in Virginia. I didn't have this experience at all. It's much different now that I'm living where I'm living. So how are we doing on time, Jen? It's 20 after.
Oh, I'm still good for a little bit.
Okay. We've run out of topics. You got something else for us?
Oof. Let's go on Twitter.
Just I'd go ahead and put you on the spot.
Yeah.
So 2 weird things happen. Okay, so I'll bring up the one weird thing, and then the other one's not so much weird. I am questioning the ages of people who've been dying lately, even the celebrities, whether you like them or not. I do think that's weird. But the other thing that was trending today was like a hell of a lot of alien talk and nothing explaining why. I'm like, are you guys going to turn into like the new Alien place where you take over the History Network and everybody's just a secret alien from the past, and we just
know why?
Lizard people?
They're trying to distract you from all the turmoil of the Biden administration right now.
Oh, is it the Hunter thing? Because like I hear he
not
lost.
just Hunter. Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, they had some powder. They were sniffing sugar cookies.
Biden just proclaimed that he cured cancer. That's another thing that they're trying to distract you from too. The actual White House puts out a transcript of whatever he does, and the transcript doesn't match what he said.
No. I did notice that.
So yeah, that's what that's all about. This whole talk about UFOs. Again, the pragmatist and the possibility of UFOs is so amazingly remote. People don't understand how amazingly remote this is, that aliens could ever find us, let alone make the trip. You couldn't find us we can't find aliens from where we are. We've been looking. SETI's been around for 35, 40 years, search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and they haven't found anything. And the vast size of space It's hard to conceptualize. The human mind can't conceptualize how really big space is, that it takes billions of years for light to get here. And light is traveling at the speed of light. So, you know, imagine we can't even get close to the speed of light. We can't even get anywhere. We can barely get over the speed of sound in some scenarios. I mean, you know, the fastest we've ever gone is orbit. That's the fastest speed we've ever gone is orbit. So
I found a really good site. I forget what the URL is, unfortunately, but it was basically the entire solar system to scale. And so I think they said 1 pixel represents the size of the moon. And then it's like you're scrolling from like the sun, and then it doesn't take too long. You get to Mercury, and then there's a big stretch of nothing, and then you get Venus. And then like between Mars and Jupiter, you're like scrolling for like a minute, just scroll, like dragging the search bar to the right for like a full 60 seconds. And then it says, don't worry, you're halfway to Jupiter. And then you keep scrolling, and eventually, like, that is how huge the distances we're talking of.
I kind of like the idea of picturing that, though, because I always do it with the diagram. It's kind of how I work out distance math. And it's weird. Like, yes, I might be using a ruler or I might be using a pencil, but it's the idea of distancing the math from my brain. You know, so if I think of the old science diagrams, you know, the sun in the middle, and then, you know, the placement of where the planets are afterwards. And then I picture that in terms of like the planet. Okay, well, now that I know where the solar system is, well, let's focus on where the planet is, because that's the most realistic step. I don't know the concept of how big our planet is, because I'm sure they have numbers for an idea if the space travel was true, which I think it was. But then I think about, well, okay, that's a concept that's still pretty huge to me, you know? So let's go to the city I live in. Like, let's not worry about the planet. Let's just go to the city I live in, because I can do the distance on that one. You know, I know that I walk home from work, and that's 8 kilometers for me. And it feels like a long distance, but I'm aware of the fact that it's actually it's a 20-minute drive by a car. Mm-hmm. You know, and when you do that kind of conceptual math, the idea of space, it's fucking huge. It's fucking huge.
And then there's, on top of that, there's the mechanics of it. Look at how we are positioned, and look at the rest of the universe, how it looks. The most common star is not a star like ours. Our star is actually uncommon. The most common stars are red dwarfs. 73% or 78%.
It used to be a great show.
Yeah, like 70 something percent of all the stars in the universe are thought to be red dwarfs. So main sequence G-type stars, our star, is not common. So then you have our star, and then the planetary makeup for our solar system is different from every other planetary solar system they've found. We are unique in the fact that we have 4 rocky inner planets that are increasing in size, and then we have 5. Well, it depends what you want to call Pluto, but 2 gas giants, 2 ice giants, right?
Yeah.
That is unusual. Most solar systems have gas giants in where Mercury is. Most of them are configured that way, completely different than the way we are configured. And then you look then you have to look at the habitable zone, and then the stability of the star that you are orbiting, and whether you're in the habitable zone of that star. And if it's a planet that has it has to have rocky surface, has to have water. So it has to be in the temperate zone to have water. And then your star is going to push off radiation. So you have to have a magnetic shield. And then for you to have the ability for water to move, to allow air and water to reach a specific point of the ground layer, you have to have tides. Well, to have tides, you have to have a large moon. You can't have small moons. They won't pull the water far enough. So without the moon, and then you have to have planets that circle you're outside your range, that are outside the habitable zone, that are large to protect any incoming meteors or asteroids from hitting your planet and wiping out all life. So you have to have a Jupiter or something along that lines to protect you. If you look at all these things, you line them all up and say you have to have this, and you have to have this, you have to have this. If you look at and I'm missing about 50 other things that you have to have.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The probability of finding that anywhere near you. How are they going to get here? And the thing is, people say, well, that's the speed of light. No, that's the speed of reality. Light is constricted to the speed of reality. It's not the speed of light. It's the speed of reality. Everything is constricted to the speed of reality. Light would go faster if it could, but it can't because reality prevents it from getting any faster. It's not light that's the barrier. So, I mean, if you look at all of these things about how far away and how long it would take, and then the number of planets and stars and galaxies, if you're in a galaxy somewhere, can you even see us? Do you even know that our galaxy exists? Our radio waves haven't gotten anywhere yet.
Well, so I'm going to say this, like, it's not meant to throw shade at the Star Trek fans, but I have heard Star Trek referred to as space magical cowboys because yes, they are Harry Potter.
You're not offending Star Trek people when you say that. We're agreeing with you and laughing too.
Because you are Harry Potter transporting yourself from one place all the way to the other in a thought, not in a speed of light. It's a thought. Not even, because even with their science, it wasn't that fast.
Most science fiction has some kind of faster than light travel built into it, because how exciting is a space show when you're only talking about 3 planets? You have to have faster than light, and faster than light drive has been proven to be possible, except that it requires such an enormous amount of energy to do that it's beyond our capabilities at the moment. But theoretically, FTL is possible in theory. So, but even at FTL speeds, it's still too big. Because faster than light's what, 226 I forget what the speed of light is. But even if you can break that, what are you going to double it, triple it? All right, everything is still 4 billion years away from you, you know?
Well, if people get a chance, check out the link I put in chat, which is the solar system to scale, just to get an idea just how big these distances we're talking really are.
And that's just our solar system, right?
Yeah, that's my point. It's just our solar system.
Holy mackerel.
I think that's the fun with explaining idea science to people, because like just a couple, like what was it, a month ago, that people understood what would happen to you under the ocean if you went down in a tin can. Like, they don't understand a lot of the concepts of these things. Like, and I don't all the time either, but even I could tell, like, you know, I understand the concept of what they're going with, but even I don't understand the structure of what you're doing. And I wouldn't trust human life with it until I knew for sure what you were doing. And that's because I'm not a professional in that field. I'm not an engineer, and I'm certainly not an ocean engineer. But when you explain like the level of depth and how much weight that is, and how little we've explored that, and everyone wants to go into outer space, and like outer space sounds easy because we can fly, and I'm like, sometimes taking your time is how we get. It's how we got as far as we have. In all honesty, they think that the technology that we have was just developed overnight because some stuff is, but that part of the concept is actually new. I think that's part of the reason why people have gone so crazy, is that part of the concept is very new.
I need to address something that TUES said in chat. He said a couple of sentences. First, it's very much possible that life evolved differently. There is life where no light has ever touched on our planet. That is to say, life. That is to say, it's so small on my screen. That is to say, life. I'm going to make that bigger. Scroll.
Hadn't adapted.
Yeah, and then the next line, that criteria is for human life. Snorkel life may have a different set of criteria. I've never heard snorkel life, but I know what you're talking about. That's cute. First of all, you're absolutely right. At the bottom of the ocean, they find life that's never ever seen light. You know, and it's all like transparent and white and weird looking and all that kind of stuff. Oh my God, the things that we see at the bottom of the ocean, scary. But
they also live in an environment where we really couldn't. So it's probably the closest thing to an alien world as we're really going to get. And we're not going to see that in our lifetime. And that's the truth of it.
Don't get me started on octopuses. Oh my God, what the hell is that? But the second thing he said was that criteria is for human life. Snorkel life may have a different set of criteria, and that's true. But the problem with life, and you'll find this even with these weird creatures at the bottom of the ocean, the universe is made of specific materials. The most abundant materials, hydrogen, carbon, we're all made of these materials. You could have silicon life. It's certainly possible, theoretically. We've never seen one, but it's theoretically possible. But life is going to emerge with the most common components available.
Yeah.
You know, you could certainly have a planet made of silicon. There's planets made of diamond, you know? So yeah, a crazy thought, but you could certainly do that. But the things that make up the planets are the same things that make up us. We're made of carbon. Our planet's made of carbon. The sun is made of carbon. Everything, because carbon is one of the most, everything has the components that are most common in the universe. Everything is made up of those things. We haven't found anything that's really made up of.
Our pasta is carbonara.
Thanks for that, Terry. Thanks for that.
I think that's part of the problem with our school system, but it's also, I'm sorry, I think parents do need to spend more time with the the stuff their kids are watching. I know it takes time and that's annoying, and a lot of stuff that your kids watch is just crap, but I would watch it with them because I do think that they're peddling stupid science or really dumbed down science, or they don't want kids who can conceptualize things. They don't want you to have the concept of things or to really understand the reality of things, because not everybody needs to be a genius. Like, the world needs all kinds of people, but we're not going to be living on other planets anytime soon.
No,
we just aren't. You know, like I think a lot to are really in this rush, and I think that's media talk. I think that's Hollywood talk. I'm not anti-alien people. Like I think the alien stuff is neat too, but I don't think it's realistic. You know, it's fantasy a little bit. And I don't mind fantasy. It's entertaining, but there's real life too. Don't
I think Elon
will, real world.
I think Elon will get us to Mars. I don't know if it's going to be successful. I think a lot of people are going to die, but I think it'll happen within 100 years, but I won't be here to see it.
No.
We are past 10:30. So before Terry faints from hunger,
yeah,
we should probably get out of here. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Oh, I got to be responsible too. Got to get to work tomorrow.
All right. Well,
thank everybody for joining us.
I guess we'll get out of here. Chat picked a new song for tonight, Blur's song too. So we get to
even when I don't quote unquote poison the world, I still pick the song I want.
Thanks, fam, as always, for chatting with us tonight. If you can't wait for the next Wednesday show, remember the Minions are live every evening, including weekends, with most shows starting 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Post and start times are linked in the description down below. Don't forget our pre-show on Rumble. That stream will start before 9 p.m. when all three hosts are online. We will be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. as usual. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.